Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Local Homeschoolers Podcast, where you come for local resources and encouragement. I am your host, Autumn Frisbee. Welcome to the show. Today we have Tali Boblitt on our show, and Tali is a local Palm Beach County homeschool mom who has just a great story, and I'm just excited to have her on the show to be able to share what she has seen homeschooling the last 2 years, and even more importantly, what led to her decision to homeschool. So welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much, Autumn. I'm so grateful to be here and just to share whatever part or aspect of my story can potentially help any other homeschooling folks or people who are even thinking about doing it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And let's start off by telling the listeners about your family.
We have two daughters, Callie and Maya. One is 9 and the other is 7. My husband and I both actually just turned 40. And we've kind of been working from home, especially him on and off for many years. Me, I've always worked from home, which has been great, but sometimes a little challenging. And yeah, we're just like the foursome that just loves to travel and explore and try new things. And so, this is kind of where the road has led us.
And that is great. That is the benefit, and that is the reason why we homeschool. People are experiencing different ways of working from home, working on the road. So I love that.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
how long have you been homeschooling for?
So we are on our second year of homeschooling. Um, it's great. I love it. And I hope we can keep it going forever.
And what exactly led you to your decision to homeschool?
Well, let's see. In one short word, I guess COVID. Um, it's so weird how when we grow up and we have children, especially in this country, everybody just assumes that at 5 they're all just going to go to school, and we never question it. And my husband and I were a couple just like that. We are going to have
Mhm.
babies. We moved to the area where you have the best schools, and it's also amazing. And you put them in school, and they started.
Mhm.
My oldest daughter went through kindergarten and first grade. My youngest just got through 1 year of basically preschool because she's a November baby, and then the pandemic hit. And for us, our date was March 13th of 2019, or I'm sorry, of 2020, because I knew it was Friday the 13th, and the news had broken out that, COVID is happening. And I messaged my daughter's teacher, and she said, don't worry about bringing her in. I don't think that people are going to be coming back to school after the spring break. And so once they were out and we were all hunkered down, we started noticing all the benefits of having my children around. And they were like so amazing. And I know this isn't the case for everybody, and I understand that it can be challenging, and we definitely had challenging days. But moreover, I felt so comfortable knowing that where my kids were, what they were doing. And of course, this was easy peasy. Nobody has to do work. Nobody has to do school. We're all just kind of figuring it out. So of course it was super easy. We were just having it was like summer, an extended summer, all spring.
Mhm.
And it was fantastic. Then cue July, I got really sick with COVID, and I couldn't see the girls and my husband for a little over 3 weeks. And I had never been away from them for more than 24 hours. So you can imagine how difficult things were. I was fine. I recovered. Everything was great. But once I recovered from COVID, my husband and I sat down and were like, do we really want to go back, quote unquote, onto the hamster wheel? And
Mhm.
after a little bit of time and conversation, we're like, we wanted to homeschool down the road, potentially middle school or high school. But COVID came, and we're like, why don't we just stick to this, try it out, and see if it works? And after a good, couple hour conversation, we decided we're just going to do that for the fall of 2020 and see how things pan out. And
Mhm.
that's how we came to the conclusion that for at least that year, we were going to continue to homeschool. But the reasons for making that decision were vastly different than the reasons that I have today.
So when you first started out that fall of 2020, what was it like to homeschool?
Chaotic. It was crazy. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I really, really, really wanted to do everything and almost
Mhm.
parallel to what the public school was doing down the street, right? Because it was quote unquote temporary. And what if they have to go back? Do I want my kid to be behind? Do I want them not to be socially adept to everybody else if they've been around for a year? Little things like that that you start questioning and you start doubting yourself naturally. Why? Because my goal was to mimic the public school operation. And so trying to get her to do all her work on the computer is tough, especially at that age. Trying to get the
Mhm.
kindergartner to sit on the computer for a variety of hours, that's also tough. We're not a big techie family in the house with the girls. So for them, that was new. They were just learning how to type. My little one was just learning how to use a mouse. It was
Mhm.
challenge after challenge. But we knew that those challenges were going to be less than the challenges of sending them to school to go have anxiety all day about mask wearing, not mask wearing, people getting sick,
Mhm.
students and teachers getting sick, and them not knowing what's going to happen. So I will say that if you have to compare, I will say that that was challenging, but not as challenging as if we would have sent them.
Right, because that's an unstable environment for them when you're sending them away.
Big time. And my kids are worriers. They do. They wonder,
Mhm.
like why is my teacher missing today, right? And then
Mhm.
they hear from other people, they know that people die from COVID. I mean, they just know. We try to shield them as much as we can, but there's only so much you can protect them when all they hear about is COVID and how sick people are getting. And I don't want my kid coming home one day and saying, "Hey, why is my classmate missing and are they going to pass because of COVID?" Those are just things that don't need to be added to their daily schedule, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
And so once you started to get kind of more in a homeschool groove, and maybe out of that mindset of you have to do everything and bombarding them with all of this work, when did that really change and when did that shift for you?
Well, I gotta be honest. It didn't shift until we finished quote unquote our school year because our school year went super fast. Because even though once we got in the groove and once we got all our projects and all our work and we followed the curriculum and all that, because it was only two of them, we were able to move a lot quicker. So we finished quote unquote the school year, I would say late March um, of last year. And so we finished the year, but I felt like I was forcing myself to find the joy in being part of my children's education because I felt like I had so many obstacles and I felt like I was failing at every turn because I wasn't doing it, quote unquote, as good as their teacher would do it. And so
Mhm.
once we shut down schooling, or formal schooling, if you will, for the school year, and we got into the summer and we got into traveling in our camper more, and I started acknowledging that we educate our children's all day long. And we just have to find the opportunities throughout the day to capitalize on their understanding and our explanation of certain concepts, topics, or ideas. So, in essence, we don't need to sit down for 45 minutes to teach our kids arithmetic when we could do it through, for example, we have money games we play, we have math games we play, but they're all in good fun. And for me, it was kind of like, well, we don't need to do it parallel to the school because I don't even know that we're going to go back to public school. And so when we realized that we are likely not going to go back, then we were like, we can do this our way, right? And in a way where I don't feel like I'm failing, because inevitably, if I feel like I'm failing, I'm not really bringing my A game to the table when I'm there ready to teach and enlighten my kids. So when I came to that realization, it was like a dark cloud like was removed from my atmosphere. It was so
Mhm.
unbelievable and so cathartic and so like it was literally like a bucket of cold water on me.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable really, because we're so hard on ourselves. But it all goes back to, has anybody stopped to question why kids go to school? What is the purpose of school? Who came up with formal school and why it's an obligation? And what are your kids getting out of it? And once I started asking those questions and talking about them with my husband, we got a lot of questions answered that really set us on our way, if you will.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I just love that because I have goosebumps now, but just really it it does take a little while to really get over like yourself as a parent
Hmm.
and letting go and realizing that they are learning all the time.
And letting go of
And
those
really,
expectations, right?
yeah, and spending time with them, quality time.
Well, that's the other thing that I'm gathering. That's exactly right. Because look, if you do the math, there's a book that I'm reading, and if you do the math, they really only get about 20 hours a week to think freely, to kind of do them,
Mhm.
to be by themselves, to be bored, to be creative, to not be directed as to what you need to do. And there's no expectation. I feel personally, based on our attachment style parenting, that more things should be kid led. They intuitively know so much already that for us, our most successful homeschool day is when I let them lead and I say, hey, girls, what do you want to learn about today? Oh, I just saw this really cute puppy that I want to, let's do it. And we do a deep dive into dogs and we find out everything there is to know about canines, about the different species, how they operate, how they reproduce, everything that is age appropriate for them regarding dogs. And they do it with joy because they love dogs and they brought it up. So while I understand that the public school system has methods and procedures in order to keep 20 plus kids in a classroom contained, organized, following through, etc., there's a lot of extra that goes into it. And I'm not here to downplay or take away from the educators and the amazing teachers who give their lives and dedicate their lives to helping children be better. What I'm saying
Mhm.
is, if you have the opportunity to do it your own way, you get the research, find out the resources that you need, find out what your family's goal is, right? Because I did reverse engineering. I'm wondering, I'm like, what do I want my kids to be like when they're grown-ups,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Do I want them to
Yeah.
be emotionally intelligent individuals? Yup, we incorporated that into our curriculum. Do I want my girls to know basic survival skills? Yup, we're incorporating that into the
Mhm.
curriculum. Do I want my girls to be bilingual and learn Spanish? Yes, because I'm Spanish and my mom is already like writing us off because they don't know Spanish. So I'm getting my A game back on that. So now I'm able to do that and able to control what they see, what how they see it, how they
Mhm.
get it. And guess what? It's not so much the control, but so much as the I'm reading the room. If they're having a tough day, if they have the sniffles, if they're tired, if they,
Mhm.
stayed up late the night before, whatever it is, I know that I can go easy on the workload that day and just make up for it throughout the week. And it's not a
Mhm.
bell schedule. It's just kind of we're rolling with the goals. We set goals for the week and that's what we need to accomplish. And how I can get
Mhm.
those accomplished, that's how we kind of work it throughout the week, you know? And so it's just it's a lot of learning, but more importantly, it's giving ourselves as parents the pass to do it our way and to understand that we have the ability to do it right. It doesn't have to be the same to be right.
Right. And the process of deschooling, I think, is like what they've termed it. But
Hmm.
deschooling is letting go of the parents' expectation of what school should be.
That's exactly right.
And it takes a long time
Like
because I'm in my third year of homeschooling and it takes a while.
like big
And
time.
when the light goes off and you're, or on, no, the light goes off a lot. But when the light goes on, you're like, you see the fruit and you see that they're actually learning and it's amazing.
On Saturday, we went to grab lunch. We were talking metric system while waiting for our food. We're talking how they measure and how they weigh the seafood. We're talking how they
Mhm.
tell you that, depending on the pounds of the seafood, that's how they're going to charge you. But again, it's letting go of the expectations. Once you're in that deschooling mode and then you enter into that freedom mode, you're gonna
Mhm.
like it's kind of like when you get pregnant, you notice every belly in society. When you get a new car, now you notice that car everywhere in traffic. You got engaged, now you notice everybody with an engagement ring. It's the same thing. Once you acknowledge that you are
Mhm.
capable, even more capable than an overworked teacher with 30 students that has to follow a bell schedule, when you realize that then you're literally on high alert for every educational experience. And it's not that you're making it happen, you're just highlighting it and talking about it a little
Mhm.
bit more to get that aha moment from your kid.
Right. It is a natural
It
process
is a very natural
when you
process.
get into that zone, that freedom zone or that freedom
1000%.
mode.
It's like it's crazy. I'm getting chills just thinking about the moment. That's how crazy it is, right? Because you're like, oh my god.
We
all
must be on the
along.
same level of like, I just got it.
But it's so
Okay.
true.
It takes a
It
while,
does take a
people.
minute. It takes a minute. And that's the thing. And that's what I want to share with other parents, like, listen, give yourself a break. Do whatever you think feels right. But for us, what worked and what got me to that aha moment is really reverse engineering what my actual goals were. Because at the beginning, my goals were skewed. I was just like, my only goal is to parallel the school in case I got to put them right back. Right. But that was like
Hmm.
frantic, quick, find a solution. And then in case you got to go back, you got to keep this going. So in essence, I'm trying to make myself into this teacher that has 30 students and follows a bell schedule. That doesn't work. And I feel like that's the antithesis of homeschooling. Now I realize that.
But what came to mind just now is like a fear mode. So, like, you're living in this fear mode versus freedom mode,
Oh my God.
you know?
Yes,
And
the
it's like this
fear.
fear that you have to send your kid back to school. What if they have to go back to school? It's like they'll probably be 2 grades ahead by the time, if that
Honestly,
happened, like, worst case scenario.
yes, yes, yes. And like, and you know what's funny? And I know this is a little bit side note, but we're traveling, right? So we're traveling in our camper. We decided to sell it all and just kind of hit the road and get off the hamster wheel and literally do it our
Mhm,
way in every sense of the way of the word. Well, we've
mhm,
met so many full-time families on the road. Okay. All of their homeschool kids, especially the ones that have been homeschooled forever, are the sweetest, most social children that I've ever met. Okay.
mhm,
And this is coming from me who was like what is it, parent classroom, parent teacher classroom monitor. I was there
mhm,
like for all the events for my girls classrooms and doing everything with the teacher to see all these kids. The homeschooled kids in the campgrounds are social. They are excited. They are motivated about learning. They are well mannered.
mhm,
Like, honestly, all the concerns that everybody has, because I got the questions too. Well, are the girls going to have enough of social aspect going to homeschool? And this is before we even decided to travel. Are the girls, are they going to know how to make friends? Are they going to be kind of socially awkward? Are they going to fall
mhm,
behind? And I'm like, I got all my questions answered traveling and meeting all these other homeschooling families. It's so
mhm,
unbelievably clear that it is not a detriment to homeschool. It is not. You're not at an automatic detriment if you decide to homeschool. And that was my biggest thing. I'm like, am I shorting my kids of a real education? Right? Am I shorting my kids of opportunities down the road? Am I shorting them of having a big circle of friends? Right? Those are all the normal questions we all ask. But once we do the research, we realize that's not even the case. Sure, do you have to make a little bit of an extra effort to find out who are the homeschooling, groups and all that? But with social media, there's no excuse. They're all out there. You see, I understand how this could have been difficult maybe 50, 60, 100 years ago. But now, all you need to do is get on social media and find a homeschooling group and you know where they meet, when they meet, and what they do. So the social aspect is not a concern whatsoever.
and there are so many in Palm Beach County that you could have your kid involved in anything any day of the week.
Absolutely. 100%. There's so much flexibility.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, and it just brings, I think that homeschooling brings that life to the family. You know, it
Oh my
it
gosh,
integrates
yes.
the adults with the children, and there's just that quality time that, like I said, you just can't get back.
And you see it, you see the change, you see the change in them when you spend that time. Because my husband and I are real big on just quality time every day, even if it's just 15 minutes for each kid, the one-on-one. But this, it's like on steroids. They're so happy and they're
Mhm,
just so eager to play with us because, like I said, we do a lot of education through a lot of games. And that's another thing. It's learning how my kids like to learn. Because, Autumn, I never thought about that before. I never
mhm,
really broke it down. I'm like, they're just going to school, they're getting an education, they should be learning everything, right? No. As you can tell, I'm a chatter. I was very chatty when I was in school. So where do they always sit me? They always sat me next to the teacher. My desk is always next to the teacher. So they can keep tabs on how much chatting I was doing throughout the day, right? And like, it's these little things for me that when I look back at my education and my experience through the school system and everything, that I'm like, that alone made me self-conscious about my chatting. Okay. And although they needed to do that in order to keep the class under control and make sure nobody was getting out of line or whatever, that's what you have to do in a group setting. And if you don't have to be in a group setting, why not help your own child yourself? especially if you have the time, right? And the whole, well, I didn't go to college and I'm not a teacher and I'm not qualified. You're way more qualified than any teacher just because you love your child and you care about your child. That alone has given you the advantage of the number one educator in your child's life. And I love that. I really do. And it's not that I like, I don't have a teaching background. I don't have anything to do with education. But I know that I want the best interest for my kids. And I know that as a 40-year-old now, who are the successful adults and why are they successful? And the and here's a hint to the answer. It has nothing to do with whether they went to public school or they went to private school or how many years of schooling they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it has everything to do with their opinion of themselves, their relationship with their family as a child, and the goals that the grown-ups around them had for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So what's different about homeschooling? Nothing.
Right. And we can build in that motivation, that internal motivation that every child needs
100%.
to figure out who they are, what God has brought them into the world to do.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is the path that we can kind of nurture.
Exactly. Exactly. And so my Callie, my 9-year-old, loves hands on. She wants to touch and feel things when she's counting. She wants to build stuff as we're talking about it. My little one loves workbooks. She is a workbook queen. She can sit on the workbooks for hours on end. My oldest, I can't convince her to get on the workbook. So learning how they learn is huge because, like you just said, now we can see what they love, what they're into, and then nurture it, right? Without all the extra fluff, the social media, the pressures, the bullying, you know, the drills, the drills. I only went through one drill because they're little. I only went through one active shooter drill, and I about died. I literally wanted to break into the school and go grab her, but obviously you can't do that. They're on lockdown, right? So those little things, right? And then even this year, right? Even in Palm Beach County, I know all the parents got it, right? It was the we're running out of teachers, so I don't care who you are. If you got 30 credits, you can become a substitute teacher. Then you got the email about the masks, about how they're kind of yes, maybe no, they're not sure. And then the we got parents. We all want you to know we're aware of the TikTok video going around, motivating children to or kids or people to come and shoot up schools. So when you have back to back messages like that, it only reasserts that I made the right choice for my children. Okay, and I know that and I saw a meme recently that said, and maybe it was posted in the homeschooling group, but it said, I don't know if we did the right thing, but I know that we did the right thing for our family. For us, this is huge because for our family, this is what we needed, right? Like we needed to be together. We're very, very close. And I feel like this has helped my children cope with everything going on in the world by being together with their folks every day.
What words of encouragement would you give a parent who is currently, maybe still in the school system, who's on the fence of homeschooling? What is that word of encouragement that might just push them into homeschooling?
You can do it. And that's like the biggest thing is you can do it and you can do it better than anybody else. And I feel like once they have that moment of enlightenment where they realize that the public school system is not the end all be all to make a child or a human successful in the future, that in and of itself is very powerful because the fear that we had talked about before, a lot of it has to do with what if I don't do everything that the school was going to do for them? And for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
success was equated to schooling. But what we're not catching is that success is actually related to education. And education can be received in a variety of ways, not just through compulsory school.
Right. I mean, you're basically separating
Right.
schooling from education
Right.
in
And I think
general.
that for me was a biggie because I thought they were synonymous. I was like, well, duh, they have to go to school to get an education. If they
Yeah.
want to become anything in the future, they have to go to school.
Right.
If they want to go get a job, they need to go to school.
Yeah.
But guess what? The internet, the pandemic, technology, everything has turned all that on its head. Because let's be real, we can all get a course, get a license, open up a business, and pass a test probably in a few days and be ready to roll. And we don't need the permission from a teacher or a
Yeah.
manager or a business owner to tell us we can do so. Anybody can do that. Gone are the days where that's required. So for me, I feel like letting parents know that anybody can do it. If I can do it, I'm an immigrant from Colombia.
Hmm.
My first language is Spanish. I was in ESO classes as a kid to learn English. I come from a single parent household. I have a husband who's a recovering alcoholic. I work from home. I manage two businesses. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
The way that you speak about homeschooling is just definitely going to encourage those parents out there in our community. So I really appreciate you taking the time, especially being on the road, and making the time to join me. So
Anytime, anytime, Autumn. And I appreciate you for what you're doing because this is what everybody needs, you know? And now I know about your podcast. I'm so excited. And this is what everybody needs. It's just a little bit of encouragement. And for me, the homeschooling groups on social media were a big support. They led me on the right path for me to ask my own questions. And in the end, get the information that I was seeking that was a right fit for my family. And if I could leave you with one last thing too, is don't get caught up on comparing curriculums. Just focus on your goals for your children and then work backwards from there. And learn how they love to learn, and that's the secret sauce to the whole operation.
thank you for tuning in to the Local Homeschoolers podcast. If you would like to share your homeschool story or have a local Palm Beach County resource that you would like to share on the podcast, please reach out to us at localhomeschoolers.com.